Bangladesh. In today's video we'll learn about Bangladesh. Going through the sections: abstract, etymology, history, geography, politics and government, economy, demographics, education, health, culture, external links. Abstract. Coordinates. MW parser output. GeoDefault, .mw parser output. GeoDMs, .mw parser output. GeoDeck display inline. MW parser output. GeoNonDefault, .mw parser output. GeoMultipunct display none. MW parser output. Longitude, .mw parser output. Latitude whitespace NORAP 24N90E, 24N90E, 2490. Bangladesh, officially the People's Republic of Bangladesh, is a country in South Asia. It is the 8th most populous country in the world, with a population exceeding 164 million people. In terms of landmass, Bangladesh ranks 92nd, spanning 148,460 square kilometers, 57,320 square miles, making it one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Bangladesh shares land borders with India to the west, north, and east, Myanmar to the southeast, and the Bay of Bengal to the south. It is narrowly separated from Nepal and Bhutan by the Siliguri Corridor, and from China by Sikkim, in the north, respectively. Dhaka, the capital and largest city, is the nation's economic, political and cultural hub. Chittagong, the largest seaport, is the second largest city. Bangladesh forms the larger and eastern part of the Bengal region. According to the ancient Indian texts, Ramayana and Mahabharata, the Vanga kingdom, one of the namesakes of the Bengal region, was a strong naval power. In the ancient and classical periods of the Indian subcontinent, the territory was home to many principalities, including the Pundra, Gangaridai, Gauda, Samatata, and Harakala. It was also a Mauryan province under the reign of Ashoka. The principalities were notable for their overseas trade, contacts with the Roman world, the export of fine muslin and silk to the Middle East, and spreading of philosophy and art to Southeast Asia. The Pula Empire, the Chundra dynasty, and the Sina dynasty were the last pre-Islamic Bengali Middle Kingdoms. Islam was introduced during the Pula Empire, through trade with the Absid Caliphate, but following the Ghurid conquests led by Bakhtiyar Khalji and the subsequent establishment of the Delhi Sultanate and preaching of Shah Jahan in northeastern Bengal, the Islamic faith spread across the entire region. In 1576, the wealthy Bengal Sultanate was absorbed into the Mughal Empire, but its rule was briefly interrupted by the Suri Empire. Following the death of Emperor Aurangzeb Alamgir in the early 1700s, proto-industrialized Mughal Bengal became a semi-independent state under the Nawabs of Bengal. The region was later conquered by the British East India Company at the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The borders of modern Bangladesh were established with the partition of Bengal in August 1947 at the time of partition of India, when the region became East Pakistan as a part of the newly formed Dominion of Pakistan. Later the rise of a pro-democracy movement thrived on Bengali nationalism and self-determination, leading to the Liberation War and eventually resulted in the emergence of Bangladesh as a sovereign and independent nation in 1971. Bangladesh is the only country in the world that was created on the basis of language and ethnicity. The Bengalis make up 98% of the total population of Bangladesh, making it one of the most ethnically homogeneous states in the world. The large Muslim population of Bangladesh makes it the third largest Muslim majority country. The constitution declares Bangladesh a secular state, while establishing Islam as a state religion. As a middle power in world politics, Bangladesh is a unitary parliamentary democracy and constitutional republic following the Westminster system of governance. The country is divided into 8 administrative divisions and 64 districts. Although the country continues to face the challenges of the Rohingya refugee crisis, corruption, and the adverse effects of climate change, Bangladesh is one of the emerging and growth-leading economies of the world, and is also one of the next 11 countries, with one of the fastest real GDP growth rates. The Bangladeshi economy is the 39th largest in the world by nominal GDP, and the 29th largest by PPP. This project compresses information gathered from Wikipedia in video format. Why should I watch it? Studies prove that reading while listening improves comprehension, increases speed as well as expands vocabulary and enhances fluency. Provide your feedback on the comments section. Support the channel by subscribing and liking the video, thanks. Etymology. The exact origin of the word Bangla is unknown, though it is believed to come from Vanga, an ancient kingdom and geopolitical division on the Ganges Delta in the Indian subcontinent. It was located in southern Bengal, with a core region including present-day southern West Bengal, India, and southwestern Bangladesh. In Islamic tradition, it is said to come from Bung/Bing, a son of Hind who colonized the area for the first time. The suffix al came to be added to it from the fact that the ancient Rajas of this land raised mounds of earth 10 feet high and 20 in breadth in lowlands at the foot of the hills which were called al. From this suffix added to the Bung, the name Bengal arose and gained currency. Support for this view is found in Ghulam Hussain Salim's Riyaz Salatin. Other theories point to a Bronze Age Proto-Dravidian tribe, the Austric word Bonga, sun god, and the Iron Age Vanga kingdom. The Indo-Aryan suffix dash is derived from the Sanskrit word iha, which means land or country. Hence, the name Bangladesh means land of Bengal or country of Bengal. The term Bangla denotes both the Bengal region and the Bengali language. The earliest known usage of the term is the Nasari plate in 805 AD. The term Bangladesh is found in 11th century South Indian records. The term gained official status during the Sultanate of Bengal in the 14th century. Shamsuddin Ilyas Shah proclaimed himself as the first Shah of Bangala in 1342. The word Bangla became the most common name for the region during the Islamic period. The Portuguese referred to the region as Bengala in the 16th century. The term Bangladesh was often written as two words, Bangladesh, in the past. Starting in the 1950s, Bengali nationalists used the term in political rallies in East Pakistan. History. Stone Age tools found in Bangladesh indicate human habitation for over 20,000 years, and remnants of Copper Age settlements date back 4,000 years. Ancient Bengal was settled by Austroasiatics, Tibeto-Burmans, Dravidians and Indo-Aryans in consecutive waves of migration. Archaeological evidence confirms that by the 2nd millennium BCE, rice-cultivating communities inhabited the region. By the 11th century people lived in systemically aligned housing, buried their dead, and manufactured copper ornaments in black and red pottery. The Ganges, Brahmaputra and Meghna rivers were natural arteries for communication and transportation, and estuaries on the Bay of Bengal permitted maritime trade. The early Iron Age saw the development of metal weaponry, coinage, agriculture and irrigation. Major urban settlements formed during the Late Iron Age, in the mid-1st millennium BCE, when the northern black polished ware culture developed. In 1879, Alexander Cunningham identified Mast Hanger as the capital of the Pundra kingdom mentioned in the Rigveda. The oldest inscription in Bangladesh was found in Mast Hanger and dates from the 3rd century BCE. It is written in the Brahmi script. Greek and Roman records of the ancient Gangaridai kingdom, which, according to legend, deterred the invasion of Alexander the Great, are linked to the fort city in Wari Bateshwar. The site is also identified with the prosperous trading center of Suanagara listed on Ptolemy's world map. Roman geographers noted a large seaport in southeastern Bengal, corresponding to the present-day Chittagong region. Ancient Buddhist and Hindu states which ruled Bangladesh included the Vanga, Samatata and Pundra kingdoms, the Mauryan and Gupta empires, the Varman dynasty, Shasanka's kingdom, the Kagha and Kandra dynasties, the Pula empire, the Sena dynasty, the Harakala kingdom and the Deva dynasty. These states had well-developed currencies, banking, shipping, architecture, and art, and the ancient universities of Bikrampur and Mainamati hosted scholars and students from other parts of Asia. Xuanzang of China was a noted scholar who resided at the Samapura Mahavihara, the largest monastery in ancient India, and Atisa traveled from Bengal to Tibet to preach Buddhism. The earliest form of the Bengali language began to emerge during the 8th century. Early Muslim explorers and missionaries arrived in Bengal late in the 1st millennium CE. The Islamic conquest of Bengal began with the 1204 Ghurid expeditions led by Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khalji. Bengal was then ruled by the Delhi Sultanate for a century by governors from the Mamluk, Balban, and Tughlaq dynasties. Subsequently, the independent Bengal Sultanate was established by the rebel governors in 1352. During their rule, Bengal was transformed into a cosmopolitan Islamic superpower and became a major trading nation in the world, often referred by the Europeans as the richest country to trade with. The Sultanate's ruling houses include the Ilyas Shahi, Ganesha, Hussain Shahi, Suri and Kairani dynasties, and the era saw the introduction of a distinct mosque architecture and the Tanka currency. The Arakan region was brought under Bengali hegemony. The Bengal Sultanate was visited by explorers Ibn Battuta, Admiral Junghi, and Niccolo da Conti. The Khorasanis referred to the land as an inferno full of gifts, due to its unbearable climate but abundance of wealth. During the late 16th century, the Baro-Bhuyan, a confederation of Muslim and Hindu aristocrats, ruled eastern Bengal. Its leader was the Mansadi Allah, a title held by Isa Khan and his son Musa Khan. The Khan dynasty is considered local heroes for resisting North Indian invasions with their river navies. The Mughal Empire controlled Bengal by the 17th century. During the reign of Emperor Akbar, the Bengali agrarian calendar was reformed to facilitate tax collection. The Mughals established Dhaka as a fourth city and commercial metropolis, and it was the capital of Bengal Suba for 75 years. In 1666, the Mughals expelled the Arakanese from Chittagong. Mughal Bengal attracted foreign traders for its muslin and silk goods, and the Armenians were a notable merchant community. A Portuguese settlement in Chittagong flourished in the southeast, and a Dutch settlement in Rajshahi existed in the north. Bengal accounted for 40% of overall Dutch imports from Asia, including more than 50% of textiles and around 80% of silks. The Bengal Suba, described as the paradise of the nations, was the empire's wealthiest province, and a major global exporter, a notable center of worldwide industries such as muslin, cotton textiles, silk, and shipbuilding. Its citizens also enjoyed one of the world's most superior living standards. During the 18th century, the Nawabs of Bengal became the region's de facto rulers. The title of the ruler is popularly known as the Nawab of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, given that the Bengali Nawab's realm encompassed much of the eastern subcontinent. The Nawabs forged alliances with European colonial companies, which made the region relatively prosperous early in the century. Bengal accounted for 50% of the gross domestic product of the empire. The Bengali economy relied on textile manufacturing, shipbuilding, saltpeter production, craftsmanship, and agricultural produce. Bengal was a major hub for international trade. Silk and cotton textiles from Bengal were worn in Europe, Japan, Indonesia, and Central Asia. Annual Bengali shipbuilding output was 223,250 tons, compared to an output of 23,061 tons in the 19 colonies of North America. Bengali shipbuilding proved to be more advanced than European shipbuilding prior to the Industrial Revolution. The flush deck of Bengali rice ships was later replicated in European shipbuilding to replace the step deck design for ship hulls. The Bengali Muslim population was a product of conversion and religious evolution, and their pre-Islamic beliefs included elements of Buddhism and Hinduism. The construction of mosques, Islamic academies, madrasas, and Sufi monasteries, khanqahs, facilitated conversion, and Islamic cosmology played a significant role in developing Bengali Muslim society. Scholars have theorized that Bengalis were attracted to Islam by its egalitarian social order, which contrasted with the Hindu caste system. One of the notable Muslim preachers was Shah Jalal, who arrived in the region of Sylhet in 1303 with many other disciples to preach the religion to the people. By the 15th century, Muslim poets were writing in the Bengali language. Notable medieval Bengali Muslim poets included Daulat Qazi, Abdul Hakim, and Alal. Syncretic cults, such as the Baul movement, emerged on the fringes of Bengali Muslim society. The Persianate culture was significant in Bengal, where cities like Sonargaon became the easternmost centers of Persian influence. The Mughals had aided France during the 7 Years' War to avoid losing the Bengal region to the British. However, in the Battle of Plassey, the British East India Company registered a decisive victory over the Nawab of Bengal and his French allies on June 22, 1757, under the leadership of Robert Clive. The battle followed the order of Siraj ad-Dawla, the last independent Nawab of Bengal, to the English to stop the extension of their fortification. Robert Clive bribed Mir Jafar, the commander-in-chief of the Nawab's army, and also promised him to make him Nawab of Bengal, which helped him to defeat Siraj ad-Dawla and capture Calcutta. The battle consolidated the company's presence in Bengal, which later expanded to cover much of India over the next 100 years. Although they had lost control of Bengal Suba, Shah Alam II was involved in the Bengal War, which ended once more in their defeat at the Battle of Buxar. 2 decades after Vasco da Gama's landing in Calicut, The Bengal Sultanate gave permission for the Portuguese settlement in Chittagong to be established in 1528. It became the first European colonial enclave in Bengal. The Bengal Sultanate lost control of Chittagong in 1531 after Arakan declared independence and the established Kingdom of Merauke. Portuguese ships from Goa and Malacca began frequenting the port city in the 16th century. The cartas system was introduced and required all ships in the area to purchase naval trading licenses from the Portuguese settlement. Slave trade and piracy flourished. The nearby island of Sanwip was conquered in 1602. In 1615, the Portuguese navy defeated a joint Dutch East India Company and Arakanese fleet near the coast of Chittagong. The Bengal Sultan after 1534 allowed the Portuguese to create several settlements at Chittagong, Satkan, Huli, Bandil, and Decca. In 1535 the Portuguese allied with the Bengal Sultan and held the Thalyagrahi Pass 280 kilometers from Patna, helping to avoid the invasion by the Mughals. By then several of the products came from Patna and the Portuguese sent in traders, establishing a factory there since 1580. By the time the Portuguese assured military help against Sher Shah, the Mughals already had started to conquer the Sultanate of Ghiyasuddin Mahmud. In 1666, the Mughal government of Bengal led by Viceroy Shah Ister Khan moved to retake Chittagong from Portuguese and Arakanese control. After the 1757 Battle of Plassey, Bengal was the first region of the Indian subcontinent conquered by the British East India Company. The company formed the Presidency of Fort William, which administered the region until 1858. A notable aspect of company rule was the permanent settlement, which established the feudal zamindari system. The plunder of Bengal directly contributed to the Industrial Revolution in Britain, with the capital amassed from Bengal used to invest in British industries such as textile and greatly increased British wealth, while at the same time leading to deindustrialization of Bengal's traditional textile industry. The economic mismanagement directly led to the Great Bengal Famine of 1770, which is estimated to have caused the deaths of about 10 million people, as a third of the population in the affected region starved to death. Several rebellions broke out during the early 19th century, including one led by Tichimir, but British rule displaced the Muslim ruling class. A conservative Islamic cleric, Haji Shariatullah, sought to overthrow the British by propagating Islamic revivalism. Several towns in Bangladesh participated in the Indian Rebellion of 1857 and pledged allegiance to the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was later exiled to neighboring Burma. The challenge posed to company rule by the failed Indian Mutiny led to the creation of the British Indian Empire as a crown colony. The British established several schools, colleges, and a university in what is now Bangladesh. Syed Ahmed Khan and Ram Mohan Roy promoted modern and liberal education in the subcontinent, inspiring the Aligarh movement and the Bengal Renaissance. During the late 19th century, novelists, social reformers and feminists emerged from Muslim Bengali society. Electricity and municipal water systems were introduced in the 1890s, cinemas opened in many towns during the early 20th century. East Bengal's plantation economy was important to the British Empire, particularly its jute tea. The British established tax-free river ports, such as the port of Narayanganj, and large seaports like the port of Chittagong. Bengal had the highest gross domestic product in British India. Bengal was one of the first regions in Asia to have a railway. The first railway in what is now Bangladesh began operating in 1862. In comparison, Japan saw its first railway in 1872. The main railway companies in the region were the Eastern Bengal Railway and Assam Bengal Railway. Railways competed with waterborne transport to become one of the main mediums of transport. Supported by the Muslim aristocracy, the British government created the province of Eastern Bengal Land, Assam, in 1905. The new province received increased investment in education, transport, and industry. However, the first partition of Bengal created an uproar in Calcutta and the Indian National Congress. In response to growing Hindu nationalism, the All India Muslim League was formed in Dhaka during the 1906 All India Muhammadan Educational Conference. The British government reorganized the provinces in 1912, reuniting East and West Bengal and making Assam a second province. The Raj was slow to allow self-rule in the colonial subcontinent. It established the Bengal Legislative Council in 1862, and the council's native Bengali representation increased during the early 20th century. The Bengal Provincial Muslim League was formed in 1913 to advocate civil rights for Bengali Muslims within a constitutional framework. During the 1920s, the League was divided into factions supporting the Caliphate movement and favoring cooperation with the British to achieve self-rule. Segments of the Bengali elite supported Mustafa Kemal Ataturk's secularist forces. In 1929, the All Bengal Tenants Association was formed in the Bengal Legislative Council to counter the influence of the Hindu landed gentry, and the Indian independence and Pakistan movements strengthened during the early 20th century. After the Morley-Minto reforms and the diarchy era in the legislatures of British India, the British government promised limited provincial autonomy in 1935. The Bengal Legislative Assembly, British India's largest legislature, was established in 1937. Although it won a majority of seats in 1937, the Bengal Congress boycotted the legislature. A. K. Fazlul Huq of the Krishak Praja Party was elected as the first Prime Minister of Bengal. In 1940 Huq supported the Lahore Resolution, which envisaged independent states in the northwestern and eastern Muslim-majority regions of the subcontinent. The first Huq ministry, a coalition with the Bengal Provincial Muslim League, lasted until 1941. It was followed by a Huq coalition with the Hindu Mahasabha which lasted until 1943. Huq was succeeded by Khawaja Nazimuddin, who grappled with the effects of the Burma Campaign, the Bengal famine of 1943, which killed up to 3 million people, and the Quit India movement. In 1946, the Bengal Provincial Muslim League won the provincial election, taking 113 of the 250-seat assembly, the largest Muslim League mandate in British India. H. S. Sharawardi, who made a final futile effort for a united Bengal in 1946, was the last Premier of Bengal. On June 3, 1947, the Mountbatten Plan outlined the partition of British India. On 20 June, the Bengal Legislative Assembly met to decide on the partition of Bengal. At the preliminary joint meeting, it was decided that if the province remained united it should join the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. At a separate meeting of legislators from West Bengal, it was decided that the province should be partitioned and West Bengal should join the Constituent Assembly of India. At another meeting of legislators from East Bengal, it was decided that the province should not be partitioned and that East Bengal should join the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan if Bengal was partitioned. On 6 July, the Sylhet region of Assam voted in a referendum to join East Bengal. Cyril Ratcliffe was tasked with drawing the borders of Pakistan and India, and the Radcliffe Line established the borders of present-day Bangladesh. The Dominion of Pakistan was created on August 14, 1947. East Bengal, with Dhaka as its capital, was the most populous province of the 1947 Pakistani Federation. East Bengal was also Pakistan's most cosmopolitan province, home to peoples of different faiths, cultures and ethnic groups. Partition gave increased economic opportunity to East Bengalis, producing an urban population during the 1950s. Khawaja Nazimuddin was East Bengal's first chief minister with Frederick Chalmers born its governor. The All-Pakistan Awami Muslim League was formed in 1949. In 1950, the East Bengal Legislative Assembly enacted land reform, abolishing the permanent settlement in the zamindari system. The 1952 Bengali language movement was the first sign of friction between the country's geographically separated wings. The Awami Muslim League was renamed the more secular Awami League in 1953. The first Constituent Assembly was dissolved in 1954. This was challenged by its East Bengali speaker, Maulvi Tamazuddin Khan. The United Front coalition swept aside the Muslim League in a landslide victory in the 1954 East Bengali legislative election. The following year, East Bengal was renamed East Pakistan as part of the One Unit program and the province became a vital part of the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. Pakistan adopted its first constitution in 1956. 3 Bengalis were its prime minister until 1957, Nazimuddin, Muhammad Ali of Bagra and Sharawardi. None of the 3 completed their terms, and resigned from office. The Pakistan Army imposed military rule in 1958, and Ayub Khan was the country's strongman for 11 years. Political repression increased after the coup. Khan introduced a new constitution in 1962, replacing Pakistan's parliamentary system with a presidential and gubernatorial system, based on electoral college selection, known as basic democracy. In 1962 Dhaka became the seat of the National Assembly of Pakistan, a move seen as appeasing increased Bengali nationalism. The Pakistani government built the controversial Kaptai Dam, displacing the Chakma people from their indigenous homeland in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. During the 1965 presidential election, Fatima Jinnah lost to Ayub Khan despite support from the Combined Opposition Alliance, which included the Awami League. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 blocked cross-border transport links with neighboring India in what is described as a second partition. In 1966, Awami League leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman announced a six-point movement for a federal parliamentary democracy. According to senior World Bank officials, Pakistan practiced extensive economic discrimination against East Pakistan, greater government spending on West Pakistan, financial transfers from East to West Pakistan, the use of East Pakistan's foreign exchange surpluses to finance West Pakistani imports, and refusal by the central government to release funds allocated to East Pakistan because the previous spending had been under budget, though East Pakistan generated 70% of Pakistan's export revenue with its student tea. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was arrested for treason in the Agartala conspiracy case and was released during the 1969 uprising in East Pakistan, which resulted in Ayub Khan's resignation. General Yahya Khan assumed power, reintroducing martial law. Ethnic and linguistic discrimination was common in Pakistan's civil and military services, in which Bengalis were underrepresented. 15% of Pakistani central government offices were occupied by East Pakistanis, who formed 10% of the military. Cultural discrimination also prevailed, making East Pakistan forge a distinct political identity. Pakistan banned Bengali literature and music and state media, including the works of Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. A cyclone devastated the coast of East Pakistan in 1970, killing an estimated 500,000 people, and the central government was criticized for its poor response. After the December 1970 elections, calls for the independence of East Bengal became louder. The Bengali Nationalist Awami League won 167 of 169 East Pakistani seats in the National Assembly. The League claimed the right to form a government and develop a new constitution but was strongly opposed by the Pakistani military and the Pakistan People's Party, led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The Bengali population was angered when Prime Minister-elect Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was prevented from taking the office. Civil disobedience erupted across East Pakistan, with calls for independence. Mujib addressed a pro-independence rally of nearly 2 million people in Dhaka on March 7, 1971, where he said, "This time the struggle is for our freedom. This time the struggle is for our independence." The flag of Bangladesh was raised for the first time on 23 March, Pakistan's Republic Day. Later, on 25 March late evening, the Pakistani military junta led by Yahya Khan launched a sustained military assault on East Pakistan under the code name of Operation Searchlight. The Pakistan Army arrested Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and flew him away to Karachi. However, before his arrest, Mujib proclaimed the independence of Bangladesh at midnight on 26 March, which led the Bangladesh Liberation War to break out within hours. The Pakistan Army continued to massacre Bengali students, intellectuals, politicians, civil servants and military defectors in the 1971 Bangladesh genocide, while the Mukti Bahini and other Bengali guerrilla forces created strong resistance throughout the country. During the war, an estimated 0.3 to 3 million people were killed and several million people took shelter in neighboring India. Global public opinion turned against Pakistan as news of the atrocities spread. The Bangladesh movement was supported by prominent political and cultural figures in the West, including Ted Kennedy, George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Victoria Ocampo, and Andrew Melrose. The Concert for Bangladesh was held at Madison Square Garden in New York City to raise funds for Bangladeshi refugees. The first major benefit concert in history, it was organized by Harrison and Indian Bengali sitarist Ravi Shankar. During the Bangladesh Liberation War, Bengali nationalists declared independence and formed the Mukti Bahini, the Bangladeshi National Liberation Army. The Provisional Government of Bangladesh was established on April 17, 1971, converting the 469 elected members of the Pakistani National Assembly and East Pakistani Provincial Assembly into the Constituent Assembly of Bangladesh. The Provisional Government issued a proclamation that became the country's interim constitution and declared equality, human dignity, and social justice as its fundamental principles. Due to Mujib's detention, Syed Nazrul Islam took over the role of acting president, while Tajuddin Ahmad was named Bangladesh's first prime minister. The Mukti Bahini and other Bengali guerrilla forces formed the Bangladesh Forces, which became the military wing of the provisional government. Led by General Mag Osmani and 11 sector commanders, the forces held the countryside during the war and conducted wide-ranging guerrilla operations against Pakistani forces. As a result, almost the entire country except the capital Dhaka was liberated by Bangladesh forces by late November. This led the Pakistan Army to attack neighbouring India's Western Front on December 2, 1971. India retaliated in both the Western and Eastern fronts. With a joint ground advance by Bangladeshi and Indian forces, coupled with airstrikes by both India and the small Bangladeshi air contingent, the capital Dhaka was liberated from Pakistani occupation in mid-December. During the last phase of the war, both the Soviet Union and the United States dispatched naval forces to the Bay of Bengal in a Cold War standoff. The 9-month-long war ended with the surrender of Pakistani armed forces to the Bangladesh-India Allied forces on December 16, 1971. Under international pressure, Pakistan released Rahman from imprisonment on January 8, 1972, and he was flown by the British Royal Air Force to a million-strong homecoming in Dhaka. Remaining Indian troops were withdrawn by March 12, 1972, 3 months after the war ended. The cause of Bangladeshi self-determination was recognized around the world. By August 1972, the new state was recognized by 86 countries. Pakistan recognized Bangladesh in 1974 after pressure from most of the Muslim countries. The Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution of Bangladesh on November 4, 1972, establishing a secular, multi-party parliamentary democracy. The new constitution included references to socialism, and Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman nationalized major industries in 1972. A major reconstruction and rehabilitation program was launched. The Awami League won the country's first general election in 1973, securing a large majority in the Jatiyo Sangshad, the national parliament. Bangladesh joined the Commonwealth of Nations, the UN, the OIC and the Non-Aligned Movement, and Rahman strengthened ties with India. Amid growing agitation by the opposition National Awami Party in Jashad, he became increasingly authoritarian. Rahman amended the constitution, giving himself more emergency powers, including the suspension of fundamental rights. The Bangladesh famine of 1974 also worsened the political situation. In January 1975, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman introduced one-party socialist rule under Bagsal. Rahman banned all newspapers except 4 state-owned publications, and amended the constitution to increase his power. He was assassinated during a coup on August 15, 1975. Martial law was declared, and the presidency passed to the usurper Khandekar Mostaq Ahmad for 4 months. Ahmad is widely regarded as a traitor by Bangladeshis. Tajuddin Ahmad, the nation's first prime minister, and 4 other independence leaders were assassinated on November 4, 1975. Chief Justice Abu Sadat Muhammad Sayan was installed as president by the military on November 6, 1975. Bangladesh was governed by a military junta led by the chief martial law administrator for 3 years. In 1977, the army chief Ziaur Rahman became president. Rahman reinstated multi-party politics, privatized industries and newspapers, established BIPSA and held the country's second general election in 1979. A semi-presidential system evolved, with the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, governing until 1982. Rahman was assassinated in 1981, and was succeeded by Vice President Abdus Sattar. Sattar received 65.5% of the vote in the 1981 presidential election. After a year in office, Sattar was overthrown in the 1982 Bangladesh coup d'état. Chief Justice AFM Ahsanuddin Chowdhury was installed as president, but Army Chief Hussain Mohammad Ershad became the country's de facto leader and assumed the presidency in 1983. Ershad lifted martial law in 1986. He governed with 4 successive prime ministers, Atur Rahman Khan, Mizanur Rahman Chowdhury, Mujud Ahmed and Qazi Zafar Ahmed, and a parliament dominated by his Jatiyo party. General elections were held in 1986 and 1988, although the latter was boycotted by the opposition BNP and Awami League. Ershad pursued administrative decentralization, dividing the country into 64 districts, and pushed parliament to make Islam the state religion in 1988. A 1990 mass uprising forced him to resign, and Chief Justice Shahabuddin Ahmed led the country's first caretaker government as part of the transition to parliamentary rule. After the 1991 general election, The 12th Amendment to the Constitution restored the parliamentary republic and Begum Khaleda Zia became Bangladesh's first female prime minister. Zia, a former First Lady, led a BNP government from 1990 to 1996. In 1991 her finance minister, Saifur Rahman, began a major program to liberalize the Bangladeshi economy. In February 1996, a general election was held which was boycotted by all opposition parties, giving a 300 seat victory for BNP. This election was deemed illegitimate, so a system of a caretaker government was introduced to oversee the transfer of power, and a new election was held in June 1996, overseen by Justice Muhammad Habibur Rahman, the first chief advisor of Bangladesh. The Awami League won the 7th general election, marking its leader Sheikh Hasina's first term as prime minister. Hasina's first term was highlighted by the Chittagong Hill Tracts Peace Accord and a Ganges water-sharing treaty with India. The second caretaker government, led by Chief Advisor Justice Latifur Rahman, oversaw the 2001 Bangladeshi general election which returned Begum Zia and the BNP to power. The second Zia administration saw improved economic growth, but political turmoil gripped the country between 2004 and 2006. A radical Islamist militant group, the JMB, carried out a series of terror attacks. The evidence of staging these attacks by these extremist groups have been found in the investigation, and hundreds of suspected members were detained in numerous security operations in 2006, including the two chiefs of the JMB, Sheikh Abdur Rahman and Bangla Bai, who were executed with other top leaders in March 2007, bringing the militant group to an end. In 2006, at the end of the term of the BNP administration, there was widespread political unrest related to the handover of power to a caretaker government. As such, the Bangladeshi military urged President Iyad Ahmed to impose a state of emergency, and a caretaker government, led by technocrat Fakhruddin Ahmed, was installed. Emergency rule lasted for 2 years, during which time investigations into members of both Awami League and BNP were conducted, including their leaders Sheikh Hasina and Khaleda Zia. In 2008 the 9th general election saw a return to power for Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League-led Grand Alliance in a landslide victory. In 2010, the Supreme Court ruled martial law illegal and affirmed secular principles in the constitution. The following year, the Awami League abolished the caretaker government system. Citing the lack of caretaker government, the 2014 general election was boycotted by the BNP and other opposition parties, giving the Awami League a decisive victory. The election was controversial, with reports of violence and an alleged crackdown on the opposition in the run-up to the election, and 153 seats, of 300, went uncontested in the election. Despite the controversy, Hasina went on to form a government that saw her return and for a third term as prime minister. Due to strong domestic demand, Bangladesh emerged as one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. However, human rights abuses increased under the Hasina administration, particularly enforced disappearances. Between 2016 and 2017, an estimated 1 million Rohingya refugees took shelter in southeastern Bangladesh amid a military crackdown in neighboring Rakhine state, Myanmar. In 2018, the country saw major movements for government quota reforms and road safety. The 2018 Bangladeshi general election was marred by allegations of widespread vote rigging. The Awami League won 259 out of 300 seats, and the main opposition alliance Jatiya Oikya Front secured only 8 seats, with Sheikh Hasina becoming the longest-serving prime minister in Bangladeshi history. Pro-democracy leader Dr. Kamal Hossain called for an annulment of the election result and for a new election to be held in a free and fair manner. The election was also observed by European Union observers. Geography. The geography of Bangladesh is divided between 3 regions. Most of the country is dominated by the fertile Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta, which is the largest river delta in the world. The northwest and central parts of the country are formed by the Madhupur and the Burin plateaus. The northeast and southeast are home to evergreen hill ranges. The Ganges Delta is formed by the confluence of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, Jamuna or Jamuna, and Meghna rivers and their respective tributaries. The Ganges unites with the Jamuna, main channel of the Brahmaputra, and later joins the Meghna, finally flowing into the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh has 57 transboundary rivers, making the resolution of water issues politically complicated, in most cases, as the country is a lower riparian state to India. Bangladesh is predominantly rich fertile flatland. Most of it is less than 12 meters, 39 feet, above sea level, and it is estimated that about 10% of its land would be flooded if the sea level were to rise by 1 meter, 3.3 feet. 17% of the country is covered by forests and 12% is covered by hill systems. The country's wetlands are of significance to global environmental science. Bangladesh had a 2018 Forest Landscape Integrity Index mean score of 5.45, ranking it 101st globally out of 172 countries. In southeastern Bangladesh, experiments have been done since the 1960s to build with nature. Construction of cross dams has induced a natural accretion of silt, creating new land. With Dutch funding, the Bangladeshi government began promoting the development of this new land in the late 1970s. The effort has become a multi-agency endeavor, building roads, culverts, embankments, cyclone shelters, toilets, and ponds, as well as distributing land to settlers. Years of collaboration with donors and global experts in water resources management has enabled Bangladesh to formulate strategies to combat the impacts of climate change. In September 2018, Bangladesh government approved Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100, a combination of long-term strategies and subsequent interventions for ensuring long-term water and food security, economic growth, and environmental sustainability. The formulation of the plan was led by the General Economics Division of the Ministry of Planning, and supported by the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, bringing together cross-sectoral expertise from the Netherlands and Bangladesh. With an elevation of 1,064 meters, 3,491 feet, Sakahaphong, also known as Modak Mul, near the border with Myanmar, is claimed to be the highest peak of Bangladesh. However, it is not yet widely recognized as the highest point of the country, and most sources give the honor to Kyokradong. There is evidence that earthquakes pose a threat to the country and that plate tectonics have caused rivers to shift course suddenly and dramatically. It has been shown that rainy season flooding in Bangladesh, on the world's largest river delta, can push the underlying crust down by as much as 6 centimeters, and possibly perturb faults. Bangladeshi water is frequently contaminated with arsenic because of the high arsenic content of the soil. Up to 77 million people are exposed to toxic arsenic from drinking water. Bangladesh is divided into 8 administrative divisions, each named after their respective divisional headquarters: Barisal, officially Barishal; Chittagong, officially Chattogram; Dhaka, Khulna, Mymensingh, Rajshahi, Rangpur, and Sylhet. Divisions are subdivided into districts, Zila. There are 64 districts in Bangladesh, each further subdivided into Upazila, subdistricts, or Thana. The area within each police station, except for those in metropolitan areas, is divided into several unions, with each union consisting of multiple villages. In the metropolitan areas, police stations are divided into wards, which are further divided into mahallas. There are no elected officials at the divisional or district levels, and the administration is composed only of government officials. Direct elections are held in each union, or ward, for a chairperson and a number of members. In 1997, a parliamentary act was passed to reserve 3 seats in every union for female candidates. Straddling the Tropic of Cancer, Bangladesh's climate is tropical with a mild winter from October to March, and a hot, humid summer from March to June. The country has never recorded an air temperature below 0 C, with a record low of 1.1 C in the northwest city of Dinajpur on February 3, 1905. A warm and humid monsoon season lasts from June to October and supplies most of the country's rainfall. Natural calamities, such as floods, tropical cyclones, tornadoes, and tidal bores occur almost every year, combined with the effects of deforestation, soil degradation and erosion. The cyclones of 1970 and 1991 were particularly devastating, the latter killing some 140,000 people. In September 1998, Bangladesh saw the most severe flooding in modern world history. As the Brahmaputra, the Ganges and Meghna spilt over and swallowed 300,000 houses, 9,700 kilometers, 6,000 miles, of road and 2,700 kilometers, 1,700 miles, of embankment. 1,000 people were killed and 30 million more were made homeless, 135,000 cattle were killed, 50 square kilometers of land were destroyed, and 11,000 kilometers, 6,800 miles, of roads were damaged or destroyed. Effectively, 2/3 of the country was underwater. The severity of the flooding was attributed to unusually high monsoon rains, the shedding of equally unusually large amounts of meltwater from the Himalayas, and the widespread cutting down of trees that would have intercepted rainwater for firewood or animal husbandry. As a result of various international and national level initiatives in disaster risk reduction, human toll and economic damage from floods and cyclones have come down over the years. A similar countrywide flood in 2007, which left 5 million people displaced, had a death toll around 500. Bangladesh is recognized to be one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change. Over the course of a century, 508 cyclones have affected the Bay of Bengal region, 17% of which are believed to have caused landfall in Bangladesh. Natural hazards that come from increased rainfall, rising sea levels, and tropical cyclones are expected to increase as the climate changes, each seriously affecting agriculture, water and food security, human health, and shelter. It is estimated that by 2050, a 3-foot rise in sea levels will inundate some 20% of the land and displace more than 30 million people. To address the sea level rise threat in Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 has been launched. Bangladesh ratified the Rio Convention on Biological Diversity on May 3, 1994. As of 2014, the country was set to revise its National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Bangladesh is located in the Indo-Malayan realm, and lies within 4 terrestrial ecoregions: Lower Gangetic Plains moist deciduous forests, Mizoram-Manipur Kachin rainforests, Sundarbans freshwater swamp forests, and Sundarbans mangroves. Its ecology includes a long sea coastline, numerous rivers and tributaries, lakes, wetlands, evergreen forests, semi-evergreen forests, hill forests, moist deciduous forests, freshwater swamp forests and flat land with tall grass. The Bangladesh plain is famous for its fertile alluvial soil which supports extensive cultivation. The country is dominated by lush vegetation, with villages often buried in groves of mango, jackfruit, bamboo, betel nut, coconut and date palm. The country has up to 6,000 species of plant life, including 5,000 flowering plants. Water bodies and wetland systems provide a habitat for many aquatic plants. Water lilies and lotuses grow vividly during the monsoon season. The country has 50 wildlife sanctuaries. Bangladesh is home to much of the Sundarbans, the world's largest mangrove forest, covering an area of 6,000 square kilometers in the southwest littoral region. It is divided into 3 protected sanctuaries: the south, east and west zones. The forest is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The northeastern Sylhet region is home to her wetlands, which is a unique ecosystem. It also includes tropical and subtropical coniferous forests, a freshwater swamp forest, and mixed deciduous forests. The southeastern Chittagong region covers evergreen and semi-evergreen hilly jungles. Central Bangladesh includes the plainland sal forest running along the districts of Ghazipur, Tangail, and Mymensingh. St. Martin's Island is the only coral reef in the country. Bangladesh has an abundance of wildlife in its forests, marshes, woodlands and hills. The vast majority of animals dwell within a habitat of 150,000 square kilometers. The Bengal tiger, clouded leopard, saltwater crocodile, black panther and fishing cat are among the chief predators in the Sundarbans. Northern and eastern Bangladesh is home to the Asian elephant, hoolock gibbon, Asian black bear and oriental pied hornbill. The chital deer are widely seen in southwestern woodlands. Other animals include the black giant squirrel, capped langur, Bengal fox, sambar deer, jungle cat, king cobra, wild boar, mongooses, pangolins, pythons and water monitors. Bangladesh has one of the largest populations of Irrawaddy dolphins and Ganges dolphins. A 2009 census found 6,000 Irrawaddy dolphins inhabiting the littoral rivers of Bangladesh. The country has numerous species of amphibians, 53, reptiles, 139, marine reptiles, 19, and marine mammals, 5. It also has 628 species of birds. Several animals became extinct in Bangladesh during the last century, including the one-horned and two-horned rhinoceros and common peafowl. The human population is concentrated in urban areas, hence limiting deforestation to a certain extent. Rapid urban growth has threatened natural habitats. Although many areas are protected under law, a large portion of Bangladeshi wildlife is threatened by this growth. Furthermore, access to biocapacity in Bangladesh is low. In 2016, Bangladesh had 0.4 global hectares of biocapacity per person within its territory, or about one-fourth of the world average. In contrast, in 2016, they used 0.84 global hectares of biocapacity, their ecological footprint of consumption. As a result, Bangladesh is running a biocapacity deficit. The Bangladesh Environment Conservation Act was enacted in 1995. The government has designated several regions as ecologically critical areas, including wetlands, forests, and rivers. The Sundarbans Tiger Project and the Bangladesh Bear Project are among the key initiatives to strengthen conservation. Politics and government. Bangladesh is a de jure representative democracy under its constitution, with a Westminster-style unitary parliamentary republic that has universal suffrage. The head of government is the Prime Minister, who is invited to form a government every 5 years by the President. The President invites the leader of the largest party in parliament to become Prime Minister of the world's fifth largest democracy. Bangladesh experienced a two-party system between 1990 and 2014, when the Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, alternated in power. During this period, elections were managed by a neutral caretaker government. But the caretaker government was abolished by the Awami League government in 2011. The BNP boycotted the next election in 2014, arguing that it would not be fair without a caretaker government. The BNP-led Jatiya Oikya Front participated in the 2018 election and lost. The election saw many allegations of irregularities. Bangladesh has a prominent civil society since the colonial period. There are various special interest groups, including non-governmental organizations, human rights organizations, professional associations, chambers of commerce, employers' associations and trade unions. One of the key aspects of Bangladeshi politics is the spirit of the Liberation War, which refers to the ideals of the liberation movement during the Bangladesh Liberation War. The Proclamation of Independence enunciated the values of equality, human dignity and social justice. In 1972, the Constitution included a Bill of Rights and declared nationalism, socialism, democracy and secularity as the principles of government policy. Socialism was later de-emphasized and neglected by successive governments. Bangladesh has a market-based economy. To many Bangladeshis, especially in the younger generation, the spirit of the Liberation War is a vision for a society based on civil liberties, human rights, the rule of law and good governance. The government of Bangladesh is overseen by a cabinet headed by the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The tenure of a parliamentary government is 5 years. The Bangladesh Civil Service assists the cabinet in running the government. Recruitment for the civil service is based on a public examination. In theory, the civil service should be a meritocracy. But a disputed quota system coupled with politicization and preference for seniority have allegedly affected the civil service's meritocracy. The President of Bangladesh is the ceremonial head of state whose powers include signing bills passed by Parliament into law. The President is elected by the Parliament and has a 5-year term. Under the Constitution, the President acts on the advice of the Prime Minister. The President is the Supreme Commander of the Bangladesh Armed Forces and the Chancellor of all universities. The Jatiya Sangshad, National Assembly, is the unicameral parliament. It has 350 members of parliament, MPs, including 300 MPs elected on the first-past-the-post system and 50 MPs appointed to reserved seats for women's empowerment. Article 70 of the Constitution of Bangladesh forbids MPs from voting against their party. However, several laws proposed independently by MPs have been transformed into legislation, including the anti-torture law. The parliament is presided over by the Speaker of the Jatiya Sangsad, who is second in line to the President as per the Constitution. There is also a Deputy Speaker. When a President is incapable of performing duties, i.e. due to illness, the Speaker steps in as acting President and the Deputy Speaker becomes acting Speaker. A recurring proposal suggests that the Deputy Speaker should be a member of the opposition. The Supreme Court of Bangladesh is the highest court of the land, followed by the High Court and appellate divisions. The head of the judiciary is the Chief Justice of Bangladesh, who sits on the Supreme Court. The courts have wide latitude in judicial review and judicial precedent is supported by Article 111 of the Constitution. The judiciary includes district and metropolitan courts, which are divided into civil and criminal courts. Due to a shortage of judges, the judiciary has a large backlog. The Bangladesh Judicial Service Commission is an independent body responsible for judicial appointments, salaries, and discipline. Bangladesh's legal system is based on common law and its principal source of laws are Acts of Parliament. The Bangladesh Code includes a list of all laws in force in the country. The code begins in 1836 and most of its listed laws were crafted under the British Raj by the Bengal Legislative Council, the Bengal Legislative Assembly, the Eastern Bengal and Assam Legislative Council, the Imperial Legislative Council and the Parliament of the United Kingdom. One example is the 1860 Penal Code. From 1947 to 1971, laws were enacted by Pakistan's National Assembly and the East Pakistani Legislature. The Constituent Assembly of Bangladesh was the country's provisional parliament until 1973, when the first elected Jatiyo Sangshad, National Parliament, was sworn in. Although most of Bangladesh's laws were compiled in English, after a 1987 government directive laws are now primarily written in Bengali. While most of Bangladeshi law is secular, marriage, divorce, and inheritance are governed by Islamic, Hindu and Christian family law. The judiciary is often influenced by legal developments in the Commonwealth of Nations, such as the doctrine of legitimate expectation. The Bangladesh Armed Forces have inherited the institutional framework of the British military and the British Indian Army. It was formed in 1971 from the military regiments of East Pakistan. In 2018, the active personnel strength of the Bangladesh Army was around 157,500, excluding the Air Force and the Navy, 24,000. In addition to traditional defense roles, the military has supported civil authorities in disaster relief and provided internal security during periods of political unrest. For many years, Bangladesh has been the world's largest contributor to UN peacekeeping forces. In February 2015, the country made major deployments to Côte d'Ivoire, Cyprus, Darfur, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Golan Heights, Haiti, Lebanon, Liberia, and South Sudan. The Bangladesh Navy has the third largest fleet of countries dependent on the Bay of Bengal, including guided missile frigates, submarines, cutters and aircraft. The Bangladesh Air Force is equipped with several Russian multi-role fighter jets. Bangladesh cooperates defensively with the United States Armed Forces, participating in the cooperation of float readiness and training, exercises. Ties between the Bangladeshi and the Indian military exist with high-level visits by the military chiefs of both countries. Most of Bangladesh's military equipment comes from China. In 2019, Bangladesh ratified the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. The first major intergovernmental organization joined by Bangladesh was the Commonwealth of Nations in 1972. The country joined the United Nations in 1974, and has been elected twice to the UN Security Council. Ambassador Humayun Rashid Chowdhury was elected President of the UN General Assembly in 1986. Bangladesh relies on multilateral diplomacy in the World Trade Organization. It is a major contributor to UN peacekeeping, providing 113,000 personnel to 54 UN missions in the Middle East, the Balkans, Africa and the Caribbean in 2014. In addition to membership in the Commonwealth of Nations and the United Nations, Bangladesh pioneered regional cooperation in South Asia. Bangladesh is a founding member of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, an organization designed to strengthen relations and promote economic and cultural growth among its members. It has hosted several summits and 2 Bangladeshi diplomats were the organization's Secretary General. Bangladesh joined the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, in 1973. It has hosted the Summit of OIC Foreign Ministers, which addresses issues, conflicts and disputes affecting Muslim-majority countries. Bangladesh is a founding member of the Developing 8 Countries, which is a bloc of 8 Muslim-majority republics. The neighboring country of Myanmar, Burma, was one of the first countries to recognize Bangladesh. Despite common regional interests, Bangladesh-Myanmar relations have been strained by the Rohingya refugee crisis and the isolationist policies of the Myanmar military. In 2012, both countries came to terms at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea over maritime boundaries in the Bay of Bengal. In 2016 and 2017, relations with Myanmar were strained once again as over 700,000 Rohingya refugees illegally entered Bangladesh fleeing persecution, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and other atrocities in Myanmar. The parliament, government, and civil society of Bangladesh have been at the forefront of international criticism against Myanmar for military operations against the Rohingya, which the United Nations has described as ethnic cleansing. Bangladesh's most politically important bilateral relationship is with neighboring India. In 2015, major Indian newspapers called Bangladesh a trusted friend. Bangladesh and India are South Asia's largest trading partners. The countries are collaborating in regional economic and infrastructure projects, such as a regional motor vehicle agreement in eastern South Asia and a coastal shipping agreement in the Bay of Bengal. Indo-Bangladesh relations often emphasize a shared cultural heritage, democratic values and a history of support for Bangladeshi independence. Despite political goodwill, border killings of Bangladeshi civilians and the lack of a comprehensive water-sharing agreement for 54 transboundary rivers are major issues. In 2017, India joined Russia and China in refusing to condemn Myanmar's atrocities against the Rohingya, which contradicted with Bangladesh's demand for recognizing Rohingya human rights. However, the Indian Air Force delivered aid shipments for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. The crackdown against cattle smuggling in India has also affected Bangladesh. The Bangladeshi beef and leather industries have seen increased prices due to the Indian BJP government's Hindu nationalist campaign against the export of beef and cattle skin. Pakistan and Bangladesh have a $550 million trade relationship, particularly in Pakistani cotton imports for the Bangladeshi textile industry. Although Bangladeshi and Pakistani businesses have invested in each other, diplomatic relations are strained because of Pakistani denial of the 1971 Bangladesh genocide. The execution of a Jamaat-e-Islami leader in 2013 on committing of war crimes during the Liberation War was opposed in Pakistan and led to further strained ties. Sino-Bangladesh relations date to the 1950s and are relatively warm, despite the Chinese leadership siding with Pakistan during Bangladesh's War of Independence. China and Bangladesh established bilateral relations in 1976 which have significantly strengthened, and the country is considered a cost-effective source of arms for the Bangladeshi military. Since the 1980s, 80% of Bangladesh's military equipment has been supplied by China, often with generous credit terms, and China is Bangladesh's largest trading partner. Both countries are part of the BSIM Forum. Japan is Bangladesh's largest economic aid provider in the form of loans, and the countries have common political goals. The United Kingdom has long-standing economic, cultural and military links with Bangladesh. The United States is a major economic and security partner, its largest export market and foreign investor. 76% of Bangladeshis viewed the United States favorably in 2014, one of the highest ratings among Asian countries. The United States views Bangladesh as a key partner in the Indo-Pacific. The European Union is Bangladesh's largest regional market, conducting public diplomacy and providing development assistance. Relations with other countries are generally positive. Shared democratic values ease relations with Western countries, and similar economic concerns forge ties to other developing countries. Despite poor working conditions and war affecting overseas Bangladeshi workers, relations with Middle Eastern countries are friendly and bounded by religion and culture. More than 1 million Bangladeshis are employed in the region. In 2016, the King of Saudi Arabia called Bangladesh one of the most important Muslim countries. However, Bangladesh has not established diplomatic relationship with Israel in support of a sovereign Palestinian state and an end to Israel's illegal occupation of Palestine. Bangladeshi aid agencies work in many developing countries. An example is BRAC in Afghanistan, which benefits 12 million people in that country. Bangladesh has a record of nuclear non-proliferation as a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, CTBT, and is also a member of Non-Aligned Movement since 1973. It is a state party to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Bangladeshi foreign policy is influenced by the principle of friendship to all and malice to none, first articulated by Bengali statesman H.S. Sharawardi in 1957. Sharawardi led East and West Pakistan to join the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, CENTO, and the Regional Cooperation for Development. Template Undo section. A list of fundamental rights is enshrined in the country's constitution. The drafter of the constitution in 1972, Dr. Kamal Hossain, was influenced by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Bangladesh also recognizes the third gender. However, homosexuality is outlawed by Section 377 of the Criminal Code, and is punishable by a maximum of life imprisonment. Judicial activism has often upheld human rights. In the 1970s, judges invalidated detentions under the Special Powers Act, 1974, through cases such as Arun Sen v. Government of Bangladesh and Abdul Latif Mirza v. Government of Bangladesh. In 2008, the Supreme Court paved the way for citizenship for the stranded Pakistanis, who were an estimated 300,000 stateless people. Despite being a non-signatory of the UN Refugee Convention, Bangladesh has taken in Rohingya refugees since 1978, and the country is now home to 1 million refugees. Bangladesh is an active member of the International Labour Organization, ILO, since 1972. It has ratified 33 ILO conventions, including the 7 fundamental ILO conventions. Bangladesh has ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. In 2018, Bangladesh came under heavy criticism for its repressive Digital Security Act, which threatened freedom of speech. The photojournalist Shahidul Alam was jailed and tortured for criticizing the government. Alam was featured in the 2018 Time Person of the Year issue. The National Human Rights Commission of Bangladesh was set up in 2007. Notable human rights organizations and initiatives include the Center for Law and Mediation, Adhikar, the Alliance for Bangladesh Worker Safety, the Bangladesh Environmental Lawyers Association, the Bangladesh Hindu-Buddhist Christian Unity Council, and the War Crimes Fact-Finding Committee. Successive governments and their security forces have flouted constitutional principles and have been accused of human rights abuses. Bangladesh is ranked partly free in Freedom House's Freedom in the World report, but its press is ranked not free. According to the British Economist Intelligence Unit, the country has a hybrid regime, the third of 4 rankings in its Democracy Index. Bangladesh was the third most peaceful South Asian country in the 2015 Global Peace Index. Civil society and media in Bangladesh have been attacked by the ruling Awami League government and Islamic extremists. According to National Human Rights Commission, 70% of alleged human rights violations are committed by law enforcement agencies. Targets have included Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus and the Grameen Bank, secularist bloggers, and independent and pro-opposition newspapers and television networks. The United Nations is concerned about government measures that restrict freedom of expression and democratic space. Bangladeshi security forces, particularly the Rapid Action Battalion, RAB, have received international condemnation for human rights abuses, including enforced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings. Over 1,000 people have been said to have been victims of extrajudicial killings by RAB since its inception under the last Bangladesh Nationalist Party government. The RAB has been called the death squad by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, which have called for the force to be disbanded. The British and American governments have been criticized for funding and engaging the force in counter-terrorism operations. The Bangladeshi government has not fully implemented the Chittagong Hill Tracts Peace Accord. The Hill Tracts region remains heavily militarized, despite a peace treaty with indigenous people forged by the United People's Party of the Chittagong Hill Tracts. Secularism is protected by the Constitution of Bangladesh, and religious parties are barred from contesting elections. However, the government is accused of courting religious extremist groups. Islam's ambiguous position as the de facto state religion has been criticized by the United Nations. Despite relative harmony, religious minorities have faced occasional persecution. The Hindu and Buddhist communities have experienced religious violence from Islamic groups, notably the Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami and its student wing, Shabir. However, Islamic groups are losing popular support. Islamic far-right candidates peaked at 12% of the vote in 2001, falling to 4% in 2008. According to the 2016 Global Slavery Index, an estimated 1,531,300 people are enslaved in modern-day Bangladesh, or 0.95% of the population. A number of slaves in Bangladesh are forced to work in the fish and shrimp industries. Like for many developing countries, institutional corruption is a serious concern for Bangladesh. Bangladesh was ranked 146th among 180 countries on Transparency International's 2018 Corruption Perceptions Index. According to a survey conducted by the Bangladesh chapter of T, in 2015 bribes made up 3.7% of the national budget. Land administration was the sector with the most bribery in 2015, followed by education, police, and water supply. The Anti-Corruption Commission was formed in 2004, and it was active during the 200,608 Bangladeshi political crisis, indicting many leading politicians, bureaucrats and businessmen for graft. Economy. Bangladesh has the world's 39th largest economy in terms of market exchange rates and 29th largest in terms of purchasing power parity, which ranks second in South Asia after India. Bangladesh is also one of the world's fastest-growing economies and one of the fastest-growing middle-income countries. The country has a market-based mixed economy. A developing nation, Bangladesh is one of the next 11 emerging markets. According to the IMF, its per capita income was $1,906 in 2019, with a GDP of $317 billion. Bangladesh has the second highest foreign exchange reserves in South Asia, after India. The Bangladeshi diaspora contributed $15.31 billion in remittances in 2015. Bangladesh's largest trading partners are the European Union, the United States, Japan, India, Australia, China and ASEAN. Expat workers in the Middle East and Southeast Asia send back a large chunk of remittances. The economy is driven by strong domestic demand. During its first 5 years of independence, Bangladesh adopted socialist policies. The subsequent military regime and BNP and Jatiya Party governments restored free markets and promoted the country's private sector. In 1991, Finance Minister Saifur Rahman introduced a program of economic liberalization. The Bangladeshi private sector has rapidly expanded, with a number of conglomerates driving the economy. Major industries include textiles, pharmaceuticals, shipbuilding, steel, electronics, energy, construction materials, chemicals, ceramics, food processing, and leather goods. Export-oriented industrialization has increased with fiscal year 201,819 exports increasing by 10.1% over the previous year to $40 billion. Most export earnings are from the garment manufacturing industry. However, an insufficient power supply is a significant obstacle to Bangladesh's economic development. According to the World Bank, poor governance, corruption and weak public institutions are also major challenges. In April 2010, Standard & Poor's gave Bangladesh a BB long-term credit rating, below India's but above those of Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Agriculture is the largest sector of the economy, making up 14.2% of Bangladesh's GDP in 2017 and employing about 42.7% of the workforce. The agricultural sector impacts employment generation, poverty alleviation, human resources development and food security. More Bangladeshis earn their living from agriculture than from any other sector. The country is among the top producers of rice, 4th, potatoes, 7th, tropical fruits, 6th, jute, 2nd, and farmed fish, 5th. Bangladesh is the 7th largest natural gas producer in Asia, ahead of neighboring Myanmar, and 56% of the country's electricity is generated by natural gas. Major gas fields are located in the northeastern, particularly Sylhet, and southern, including Barisal and Chittagong, regions. Petrobangla is the national energy company. The American multinational corporation Chevron produces 50% of Bangladesh's natural gas. According to geologists, the Bay of Bengal contains large, untapped gas reserves in Bangladesh's exclusive economic zone. Bangladesh has substantial coal reserves, with several coal mines operating in the northwest. Jute exports remain significant, although the global jute trade has shrunk considerably since its World War II peak. Bangladesh has one of the world's oldest tea industries, and is a major exporter of fish and seafood. Bangladesh's textile and ready-made garment industries are the country's largest manufacturing sector, with 2017 exports of $34.1 billion. Leather goods manufacturing, particularly footwear, is the second largest export sector. The pharmaceutical industry meets 97% of domestic demand, and exports to many countries. Shipbuilding has grown rapidly, with exports to Europe. Steel is concentrated in the port city of Chittagong, and the ceramics industry is prominent in international trade. In 2005, Bangladesh was the world's 20th largest cement producer, an industry dependent on limestone imports from northeast India. Food processing is a major sector, with local brands such as Prawn increasing their international presence. The electronics industry is growing rapidly with contributions from companies like the Walton Group. Bangladesh's defense industry includes the Bangladesh Ordnance Factories and the Khulna shipyard. The service sector accounts for 51% of the country's GDP. Bangladesh ranks with Pakistan as South Asia's second largest banking sector. The Dhaka and Chittagong stock exchanges are the country's twin financial markets. Bangladesh's telecommunications industry is one of the world's fastest growing, with 114 million cell phone subscribers in December 2013, and Grameenphone, Banglalink, Robi and BTTB are major companies. Tourism is developing, with the beach resort of Cox's Bazar at the center of the industry. The Sylhet region, home to Bangladesh's tea gardens, also hosts a large number of visitors. The country has 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the Mosque City, the Buddhist Vihara and the Sundarbans, and 5 tentative list sites. Following the pioneering work of actor Hamid Khan on rural development at Bangladesh Academy for Rural Development, several NGOs in Bangladesh including BRAC, the world's largest NGO, and Grameen Bank, focused on rural development and poverty alleviation in the country. Muhammad Yunus successfully pioneered microfinance as a sustainable tool for poverty alleviation and others followed suit. As of 2015, the country had over 35 million microcredit borrowers. In recognition of their tangible contribution to poverty alleviation, Muhammad Yunus and Grameen Bank were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Transport is a major sector of the economy. Aviation has grown rapidly, and is dominated by the flag carrier Biman Bangladesh Airlines and other privately owned airlines. Bangladesh has a number of airports including 3 international and several domestic STOL, short takeoff and landing, airports. The busiest, Shah Jalal International Airport connects Dhaka with major destinations. Bangladesh has a 2,706-kilometer, 1,681-mile, long rail network operated by the state-owned Bangladesh Railway. The total length of the country's road and highway network is nearly 21,000 kilometers, 13,000 miles. With 8,046 kilometers, 5,000 miles, of navigable waters, Bangladesh has one of the largest inland waterway networks in the world. The southeastern port of Chittagong is its busiest seaport, handling over $60 billion in annual trade, more than 80% of the country's export-import commerce. The second busiest seaport is Mongla. Bangladesh has 3 seaports and 22 river ports. Bangladesh had an installed electrical capacity of 20,000 megawatts in 2018, reaching 23,548 megawatts in 2020. About 56% of the country's commercial energy is generated by natural gas, followed by oil, hydropower and coal. Bangladesh has planned to import hydropower from Bhutan and Nepal. A nuclear power plant is under construction with Russian support in the Rupar nuclear power plant project, which will add 2,160 megawatts when fully operational. The country ranks 5th worldwide in the number of renewable energy green jobs, and solar panels are increasingly used to power urban and off-grid rural areas. An estimated 98% of the country's population had access to improved water sources by 2004. A high percentage for a low-income country, achieved largely through the construction of hand pumps with support from external donors. However, in 1993 it was discovered that much of Bangladesh's groundwater is naturally contaminated with arsenic. Another challenge is low-cost recovery due to low tariffs and poor economic efficiency, especially in urban areas, where water revenue does not cover operating costs. An estimated 56% of the population had access to adequate sanitation facilities in 2010. Community-led total sanitation, addressing the problem of open defecation in rural areas, is credited with improving public health since its introduction in 2000. The Bangladesh Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, founded in 1973, traces its roots to the East Pakistan Regional Laboratories established in Dhaka, 1955, Rajshahi, 1965, and Chittagong, 1967. Bangladesh's space agency, SPARSO, was founded in 1983 with assistance from the United States. The country's first communications satellite, Bangabandhu 1, was launched from the United States in 2018. The Bangladesh Atomic Energy Commission operates a Triga research reactor at its atomic energy facility in Savar. In 2015, Bangladesh was ranked the 26th global IT outsourcing destination. Bangladesh's tourist attractions include historical sites and monuments, resorts, beaches, picnic spots, forests and wildlife of various species. Activities for tourists include angling, water skiing, river cruising, hiking, rowing, yachting, and sea bathing. The World Travel and Tourism Council, WTTC, reported in 2019 that the travel and tourism industry in Bangladesh directly generated 1,180,500 jobs in 2018, or 1.9% of the country's total employment. According to the same report, Bangladesh experiences around 125,000 international tourist arrivals per year. Domestic spending generated 97.7% of direct travel and tourism gross domestic product, GDP, in 2012. Bangladesh's world ranking in 2012 for travel and tourism's direct contribution to GDP, as a percentage of GDP, was 120 out of 140. Demographics. Estimates of the Bangladeshi population vary, but UN data suggests 161,376,708, 162.9 million, in 2017. The 2011 census estimated 142.3 million, much less than 20,072,010 estimates of Bangladesh's population, 150,170 million. Bangladesh is the world's 8th most populous nation and the most densely populated large country in the world, ranking 7th in population density even when small countries and city-states are included. The country's population growth rate was among the highest in the world in the 1960s and 1970s, when its population grew from 65 to 110 million. With the promotion of birth control in the 1980s, Bangladesh's growth rate began to slow. Its total fertility rate is now 2.05, lower than India's, 2.58, and Pakistan's, 3.07. The population is relatively young, with 34% aged 15 or younger and 5% 65 or older. Life expectancy at birth was estimated at 72.49 years in 2016. According to the World Bank, as of 2016, 14.8% of the country lives below the international poverty line on less than $1.90 per day. Bengalis are 98% of the population. Of Bengalis, Muslims are the majority, followed by Hindus, Christians, and Buddhists. The Adivasi population includes the Chakma, Marma, Tanshanya, Tripuri, Kuki, Kiang, Khmer, Morang, Meru, Chak, Mashe, Bom, Bishnupriya Manipuri, Khasi, Jintia, Garo, Santal, Munda and Oraon tribes. The Chittagong Hill Tracts region experienced unrest and an insurgency from 1975 to 1997 in an autonomy movement by its indigenous people. Although a peace accord was signed in 1997, the region remains militarized. Bangladesh is home to a significant Ismaili community. It hosts many Urdu-speaking immigrants, who migrated there after the partition of India. Stranded Pakistanis were given citizenship by the Supreme Court in 2008. Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh number at around 1 million, making Bangladesh one of the countries with the largest refugee populations in the world. Dhaka is Bangladesh's capital and largest city and is overseen by 2 city corporations who manage between them the northern and southern part of the city. There are 12 city corporations which hold mayoral elections: Dhaka South, Dhaka North, Chittagong, Komila, Khulna, Mymensingh, Sylhet, Rajshahi, Barisal, Rangpur, Ghazipur, and Narayanganj. Mayors are elected for 5-year terms. Altogether there are 506 urban centers in Bangladesh, among which 43 cities have a population of more than 100,000. The predominant language of Bangladesh is Bengali, also known as Bangla. Bengali is one of the easternmost branches of the Indo-European language family. It is a part of the Eastern Indo-Aryan languages in South Asia, which developed between the 10th and 13th centuries. Bengali is written using the Bengali script. In ancient Bengal, Sanskrit was the language of written communication, especially by priests. During the Islamic period, Sanskrit was replaced by Bengali as the vernacular language. The sultans of Bengal promoted the production of Bengali literature instead of Sanskrit. Bengali also received Persian and Arabic loanwords during the Sultanate of Bengal. Under British rule, Bengali was significantly modernized by Europeans. Modern Standard Bengali emerged as the lingua franca of the region. A heavily Sanskritized version of Bengali was employed by Hindu scholars during the Bengali Renaissance. Muslim writers such as Qazi Nazrul Islam gave attention to the Persian and Arabic vocabulary of the language. Today, the Bengali language standard is prescribed by the Bangla Academy in Bangladesh. More than 98% of people in Bangladesh speak Bengali as their native language. Bengali is described as a dialect continuum where there are various dialects spoken throughout the country. Currently there is a diglassa in which much of the population are able to understand or speak standard colloquial Bengali and in their regional dialect. These include the most distinct dialects, some consider as separate languages, such as Chittagonian or Sylheti. The Bengali Language Implementation Act, 1987 made it mandatory to use Bengali in all government affairs in Bangladesh. Although laws were historically written in English, they were not translated into Bengali until the Bengali Language Implementation Act of 1987. All subsequent acts, ordinances and laws have been promulgated in Bengali since 1987. English is often used in the verdicts delivered by the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, and is also used in higher education. The Chakma language is another native Eastern Indo-Aryan language of Bangladesh. It is written using the Chakma script. The unique aspect of the language is that it is used by the Chakma people, who are a population with similarities to the people of East Asia, rather than the Indian subcontinent. The Chakma language is endangered due to its decreasing use in schools and institutions. Other tribal languages include Garo, Meitei, Kokborok, and Rakhine. Among the Austroasiatic languages, the Santali language is spoken by the Santali tribe. Many of these languages are written in the Bengali script, while there is also some usage of the Latin script. Urdu has a significant heritage in Bangladesh, in particular Old Dhaka. The language was introduced to Bengal in the 17th century. Traders and migrants from North India often spoke the language in Bengal, as did sections of the Bengali upper class. Urdu poets lived in many parts of Bangladesh. The use of Urdu became controversial during the Bengali language movement, when the people of East Bengal resisted attempts to impose Urdu as the main official language. In modern Bangladesh, the Urdu-speaking community is restricted to the country's Bahari community, formerly stranded Pakistanis, and some sections of the old Takaya population. The constitution grants freedom of religion and officially makes Bangladesh a secular state, while establishing Islam as the religion of the republic. Islam is followed by 90% of the population. Most Bangladeshis are Bengali Muslims, who form the largest Muslim ethno-religious group in South Asia and the second largest in the world after the Arabs. There is also a minority of non-Bengali Muslims. The vast majority of Bangladeshi Muslims are Sunni, followed by minorities of Shia and Ahmadiyya. About 4% are non-denominational Muslims. Bangladesh has the fourth largest Muslim population in the world, and is the third largest Muslim-majority country, after Indonesia and Pakistan. Sufism has an extensive heritage in the region. Liberal Bengali Islam sometimes clashes with orthodox movements. The largest gathering of Muslims in Bangladesh is the apolitical Bishwa Ijtima, held annually by the Orthodox Tablighi Jamaat. The Ijtima is the second largest Muslim congregation in the world, after the Hajj. The Islamic Foundation is an autonomous government agency responsible for some religious matters under state guidance, including monitoring of sighting of the moon in accordance with the lunar Islamic calendar in order to set festival dates, as well as the charitable tradition of Zakat. Public holidays include the Islamic observances of Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, the Prophet's birthday, Ashura and Shab-e Barat. Hinduism is followed by 8.5% of the population. Most are Bengali Hindus, and some are members of ethnic minority groups. Bangladeshi Hindus are the country's second largest religious group and the third largest Hindu community in the world, after those in India and Nepal. Hindus in Bangladesh are evenly distributed, with concentrations in Gopalganj, Dinajpur, Sylhet, Sunamganj, Mymensingh, Khulna, Jessore, Chittagong and parts of the Chittagong Hill Tracts. The festivals of Durga's return and Krishna's birthday are public holidays. Buddhism is the third largest religion, at 0.6%. Bangladeshi Buddhists are concentrated among ethnic groups in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, particularly the Chakma, Marma and Tanshangya peoples, while coastal Chittagong is home to a large number of Bengali Buddhists. Although the Mahayana school of Buddhism was historically prevalent in the region, Bangladeshi Buddhists today adhere to the Theravada school. Buddha's birthday is a public holiday. The chief Buddhist priests are based at a monastery in Chittagong. Christianity is the fourth largest religion, at 0.4%. Roman Catholicism is the largest denomination among Bangladeshi Christians. Bengali Christians are spread across the country, while there are many Christians among minority ethnic groups in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, southeastern Bangladesh, and within the Garo tribe of Mymensingh, north-central Bangladesh. The country also has Protestant, Baptist, and Oriental Orthodox churches. Christmas is a public holiday. The Constitution of Bangladesh declares Islam the state religion, but bans religion-based politics. It proclaims equal recognition of Hindus, Buddhists, Christians and people of all faiths. In 1972, Bangladesh was South Asia's first constitutionally secular country. Article 12 of the Constitution continues to call for secularism, the elimination of interfaith tensions and prohibits the abuse of religion for political purposes and any discrimination against, or persecution of, persons practicing a particular religion. Article 41 of the Constitution subjects religious freedom to public order, law and morality. It gives every citizen the right to profess, practice or propagate any religion, every religious community or denomination the right to establish, maintain and manage its religious institutions, and states that no person attending any educational institution shall be required to receive religious instruction, or to take part in or to attend any religious ceremony or worship, if that instruction, ceremony or worship relates to a religion other than his own. Education. Bangladesh has a literacy rate of 72.9% as of 2018, 75.7% for males and 70.09% for females. The country's educational system is three-tiered and heavily subsidized, with the government operating many schools at the primary, secondary and higher secondary levels and subsidizing many private schools. In the tertiary education sector, the Bangladeshi government funds over 45 state universities through the University Grants Commission. The education system is divided into 5 levels: primary, 1st to 5th grade, junior secondary, 6th to 8th grade, secondary, 9th and 10th grade, higher secondary, 11th and 12th grade, and tertiary. 5 years of secondary education, including junior secondary, ends with a secondary school certificate, SSC, examination. Since 2009, the primary education closing, PEC, examination has also been introduced. Students who pass the PEC examination proceed to secondary or matriculation training, culminating in the SSC examination. Students who pass the PEC examination proceed to 3 years of junior secondary education, culminating in the Junior School Certificate, JSC, examination. Students who pass this examination proceed to 2 years of secondary education, culminating in the SSC examination. Students who pass this examination proceed to 2 years of higher secondary education, culminating in the Higher Secondary School Certificate, HSC, examination. Education is primarily in Bengali, but English is commonly taught and used. Many Muslim families send their children to part-time courses or full-time religious education in Bengali and Arabic in madrasas. Bangladesh conforms with UNESCO's Education for All, EFA, objectives, the UN Millennium Development Goals, MDG, and other international declarations. Article 17 of the Bangladesh Constitution provides that all children between the ages of 6 and 10 years receive a basic education free of charge. Universities in Bangladesh are of 3 general types: public, government-owned and subsidized; private, privately owned universities; and international, operated and funded by international organizations. They are accredited by and affiliated with the University Grants Commission, UGC, created by Presidential Order 10 in 1973. The country has 47 public, 105 private and 2 international universities. Bangladesh National University has the largest enrollment, and the University of Dhaka, established in 1921, is the oldest. University of Chittagong, established in 1966, is the largest university. Campus, rural, 2,100 acres, 8.5 square kilometers. Islamic University of Technology, commonly known as IAT, is a subsidiary of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC, representing 57 countries in Asia, Africa, Europe and South America. Asian University for Women in Chittagong is the preeminent South Asian liberal arts university for women, representing 14 Asian countries. Its faculty hails from notable academic institutions in North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Middle East. As in Bangladesh, the agriculture sector is the largest contributor, more than 20%, to GDP, and agricultural sciences are well developed. It has 6 public research-based agricultural university, and they are Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Agricultural University, Bangladesh Agricultural University, Sher-e-Bangla Agricultural University, Sylhet Agricultural University, Khulna Agricultural University, Chittagong Veterinary and Animal Sciences University. Buet, Quet, Kuwait and Ruat are Bangladesh's 4 public engineering universities. Butex and Duet are 2 specialized engineering universities. Butex specializes in textile engineering, and Duet offers higher education to diploma engineers. The NITER is a specialized public-private partnership institute that provides higher education in textile engineering. Science and technology universities include Haji Muhammad Danesh Science and Technology University, Maulana Bashani Science and Technology University, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Science and Technology University, SIST, JUST, PUST, NSTU and PSTU. The country's first higher education institution on aerospace engineering, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Aviation and Aerospace University, has been established in 2019 and is expected to launch its on-campus academic activities from the start of 2021. Medical education is provided by 29 government and private medical colleges. All medical colleges are affiliated with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Bangladesh's 2015 literacy rate rose to 71% due to education modernization and improved funding, with 16,087 schools and 2,363 colleges receiving monthly pay order (MPO) facilities. According to then Education Minister Nurul Islam Nahid, 27,558 madrasas and technical and vocational institutions were enlisted for the facility. 6,036 educational institutions were outside MPO coverage, and the government enlisted 1,624 private schools for MPO in 2010. Healthcare facilities in Bangladesh are considered less than adequate, although they have improved as poverty levels have decreased significantly. Findings from a recent study in Chakaria, a rural upazila under Cox's Bazar district, revealed that the village doctors, practicing allopathic medicine without formal training, were reported to have provided 65% of the healthcare sought for illness episodes occurring within 14 days prior to the survey. Formally trained providers made up only 4% of the total health workforce. The Future Health Systems survey indicated significant deficiencies in the treatment practices of village doctors, with widespread harmful and inappropriate drug prescribing. Receiving health care from informal providers is encouraged. A 2007 study of 1,000 households in rural Bangladesh found that direct payments to formal and informal healthcare providers and indirect costs, loss of earnings because of illness, associated with illness were deterrents to accessing healthcare from qualified providers. A community survey of 6,183 individuals in rural Bangladesh found a gender difference in treatment-seeking behavior, with women less likely to seek treatment than to men. The use of skilled birth attendant (SBA) services, however, rose from 2005 to 2007 among women from all socioeconomic quintiles except the highest. A Health Watch, a pilot community empowerment tool, was successfully developed and implemented in southeastern Bangladesh to improve the uptake and monitoring of public health services. Bangladesh's poor health conditions are attributed to the lack of healthcare provision by the government. According to a 2010 World Bank report, 2009 healthcare spending was 3.35% of the country's GDP. Government spending on healthcare that year was 7.9% of the total budget. Out-of-pocket expenditures totaled 96.5%. According to the government sources, the number of hospital beds is 8 per 10,000 population. Malnutrition has been a persistent problem in Bangladesh, with the World Bank ranking the country first in the number of malnourished children worldwide. More than 54% of preschool-aged children are stunted, 56% are underweight and more than 17% are wasted. More than 45% of rural families and 76% of urban families were below the acceptable caloric intake level. Culture. The recorded history of art in Bangladesh can be traced to the 3rd century BCE, when terracotta sculptures were made in the region. In classical antiquity, a notable school of sculptural Hindu, Jain and Buddhist art developed in the Pula Empire and the Sina dynasty. Islamic art evolved since the 14th century. The architecture of the Bengal Sultanate saw a distinct style of domed mosques with complex niche pillars that had no minarets. Mughal Bengal's most celebrated artistic tradition was the weaving of Jamdani motifs on fine muslin, which is now classified by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage. Jamdani motifs were similar to Iranian textile art, Buddha motifs, and Western textile art, Paisley. The Jamdani weavers in Dhaka received imperial patronage. Ivory and brass were also widely used in Mughal art. Pottery is widely used in Bengali culture. The modern art movement in Bangladesh took shape during the 1950s, particularly with the pioneering works of Zainal Abidin. East Bengal developed its own modernist painting and sculpture traditions, which were distinct from the art movements in West Bengal. The Art Institute Dhaka has been an important center for visual art in the region. Its annual Bengali New Year parade was enlisted as an intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO in 2016. Modern Bangladesh has produced many of South Asia's leading painters, including S.M. Sultan, Muhammad Kibriya, Shahabuddin Ahmed, Kanakan Pachakma, Kafil Ahmed, Saifuddin Ahmed, Qayyum Chowdhury, Rashid Chowdhury, Kamrul Hassan, Rafiq Nabi, and Syed Jahangir, among others. Novara Ahmed and Nithan Kundu were the country's pioneers of modernist sculpture. In recent times, photography as a medium of art has become popular. Biennial Chobi Mela is considered the largest photography festival in Asia. The oldest evidence of writing in Bangladesh is the Mahastan Brahmi inscription, which dates back to the 3rd century BCE. In the Gupta Empire, Sanskrit literature thrived in the region. Bengali developed from Sanskrit and Magadhi Prakrit in the 8th to 10th century. Bengali literature is a millennium-old tradition. The Charyapadas are the earliest examples of Bengali poetry. Sufi spiritualism inspired many Bengali Muslim writers. During the Bengal Sultanate, medieval Bengali writers were influenced by Arabic and Persian works. The Chandidas are the notable lyric poets from the early medieval age. Syed Alal was a noted secular poet and translator from the Arakan region. The Bengal Renaissance shaped the emergence of modern Bengali literature, including novels, short stories and science fiction. Rabindranath Tagore was the first non-European laureate of the Nobel Prize in Literature and is described as the Bengali Shakespeare. Qazi Nazrul Islam was a revolutionary poet who espoused political rebellion against colonialism and fascism. Begum Rokeya is regarded as the pioneer feminist writer of Bangladesh. Other Renaissance icons included Michael Madhusudan Dutt and Sarah Chand Rajadapade. The writer Syed Mujtaba Ali is noted for his cosmopolitan Bengali worldview. Jasimuddin was a renowned pastoral poet. Shamsur Rahman and Al Mahmud are considered two of the greatest Bengali poets to have emerged in the 20th century. Farooq Ahmad, Sufia Kamal, Syed Ali Hassan, Athan Habib, Abul Hussain, Shahid Qadri, Fazal Shah Buddin, Abu Jafar Obaidullah, Omar Ali, Al-Mujahidi, Syed Shamsul Haq, Nirmalan Dagun, Abid Azad, Sanal Haq Khan, Hassan Hafiz, Abdul Hay Sikdar, Syed Abu Bakr, Jafar Ahmad Rashid are important figures of modern Bangladeshi poetry. Ahmed Sofa is regarded as the most important Bangladeshi intellectual in the post-independence era. Humayun Ahmed was a popular writer of modern Bangladeshi magical realism and science fiction. Notable writers of Bangladeshi fictions include Mir Musharraf Hossain, Akhtar Zaman Elias, Alauddin Al-Azad, Shahidul Zahir, Rashid Karim, Mamajul Haq, Syed Walillah, Shahidullah Kaiser, Shokat Osman, Selina Hossain, Shahid Ali, Abul Khair Musul Huddin, Razia Khan, Anisel Hoke, and Abdul Manan Syed. The annual Kushi Book Fair and Dhaka Literature Festival, organized by the Bangla Academy, are among the largest literary festivals in South Asia. Although, as of 2015, several women occupied major political office in Bangladesh, its women continue to live under a patriarchal social regime where violence is common. Whereas in India and Pakistan women participate less in the workforce as their education increases, the reverse is the case in Bangladesh. Bengal has a long history of feminist activism dating back to the 19th century. Begum Rokeya and Faizunnisa Chowdhury played an important role in emancipating Bengali Muslim women from purdah, prior to the country's division, as well as promoting girls' education. Several women were elected to the Bengal Legislative Assembly in the British Raj. The first women's magazine, Begum, was published in 1948. In 2008, Bangladeshi female workforce participation stood at 26%. Women dominate blue-collar jobs in the Bangladeshi garment industry. Agriculture, social services, healthcare and education are also major occupations for Bangladeshi women, while their employment in white-collar positions has steadily increased. The architectural traditions of Bangladesh have a 2,500-year-old heritage. Terracotta architecture is a distinct feature of Bengal. Pre-Islamic Bengali architecture reached its pinnacle in the Pula Empire, When the Pala school of sculptural art established grand structures such as the Samapura Mahavihara. Islamic architecture began developing under the Bengal Sultanate, when local terracotta styles influenced medieval mosque construction. The Adenia Mosque of United Bengal was the largest mosque built on the Indian subcontinent. The 60-dome mosque was the largest medieval mosque built in Bangladesh, and is a fine example of Turkic Bengali architecture. The Mughal style replaced indigenous architecture when Bengal became a province of the Mughal Empire and influenced the development of urban housing. The Kantaju Temple and Takeshwari Temple are excellent examples of late medieval Hindu temple architecture. Indo-Saracenic revival architecture, based on Indo-Islamic styles, flourished during the British period. The Zamindar gentry in Bangladesh built numerous Indo-Saracenic palaces and country mansions, such as the Ahsan Manzil, Tajhat Palace, Diapasha Palace, Puthia Rajbari, and Naturi Rajbari. Bengali vernacular architecture is noted for pioneering the bungalow. Bangladeshi villages consist of thatched-roofed houses made of natural materials like mud, straw, wood and bamboo. In modern times, village bungalows are increasingly made of tin. Muzarul Islam was the pioneer of Bangladeshi modern architecture. His varied works set the course of modern architectural practice in the country. Islam brought leading global architects, including Louis Kahn, Richard Neutra, Stanley Tigerman, Paul Rudolph, Robert Bowie, and Konstantinos Doxiadis, to work in erstwhile East Pakistan. Louis Kahn was chosen to design the National Parliament complex in Shuri Bangalanagar. Kahn's monumental designs, combining regional red brick aesthetics, his own concrete and marble brutalism and the use of lakes to represent Bengali geography, are regarded as one of the masterpieces of the 20th century. In more recent times, award-winning architects like Rafiq Azam have set the course of contemporary architecture by adopting influences from the works of Islam and Khan. Theatre in Bangladesh includes various forms with a history dating back to the 4th century CE. It includes narrative forms, song and dance forms, superpersony forms, performances with scroll paintings, puppet theatre and processional forms. The Jatra is the most popular form of Bengali folk theatre. The dance traditions of Bangladesh include indigenous tribal and Bengali dance forms, as well as classical Indian dances, including the Kathak, Odissi and Manipuri dances. The music of Bangladesh features the Baul mystical tradition, listed by UNESCO as a masterpiece of intangible cultural heritage. Fakir Lalan Shah popularized Baul music in the country in the 18th century and it has been one of the most popular music genera in the country since then. Most modern Bauls are devoted to Lalan Shah. Numerous lyric-based musical traditions, varying from one region to the next, exist, including Gambhira, Bhatiali, and Bhawaya. Folk music is accompanied by a one-stringed instrument known as the ektara. Other instruments include the dotara, dole, flute, and tabla. Bengali classical music includes Tagore songs and Nazrul Sangeet. Bangladesh has a rich tradition of Indian classical music, which uses instruments like the sitar, tabla, sarod and santoor. Sabina Yasmin and Runa Layla are considered the leading playback singers in the modern time, while musician Ayub Bachchu is credited with popularizing Bengali rock music in Bangladesh. The Naksh Ikanta is a centuries-old embroidery tradition for quilts, said to be indigenous to eastern Bengal, i.e. Bangladesh. The sari is the national dress for Bangladeshi women. Mughal Dhaka was renowned for producing the finest muslin saris, as well as the famed Takai and Jamdani, the weaving of which is listed by UNESCO as one of the masterpieces of humanity's intangible cultural heritage. Bangladesh also produces the Rajshahi silk. The shalwar kameez is also widely worn by Bangladeshi women. In urban areas some women can be seen in Western clothing. The kurta and sherwani are the national dress of Bangladeshi men, the lungi and dhoti are worn by them in informal settings. Aside from ethnic wear, domestically tailored suits and neckties are customarily worn by the country's men in offices, in schools and at social events. The handloom industry supplies 6,065% of the country's clothing demand. The Bengali ethnic fashion industry has flourished in the changing environment of the fashion world. The retailer Airang is one of the most successful ethnic wear brands in South Asia. The development of the Bangladesh textile industry, which supplies leading international brands, has promoted the production and retail of modern Western attire locally, with the country now having a number of expanding local brands like Westex and Yellow. Bangladesh is the world's second largest garments exporter. Among Bangladesh's fashion designers, Bibi Russell has received international acclaim for her fashion for development shows. White rice is the staple of Bangladeshi cuisine, along with many vegetables and lentils. Rice preparations also include Bengali biryanis, pulaus, and kachuris. Mustard sauce, ghee, sunflower oil and fruit chutneys are widely used in Bangladeshi cooking. Fish is the main source of protein in Bengali cuisine. The hilsa is the national fish and immensely popular across Bangladesh. Other kinds of fish eaten include rohu, butterfish, catfish, tilapia and barramundi. Fish eggs are a gourmet delicacy. Seafood holds an important place in Bengali cuisine, especially lobsters, shrimps and dried fish. Meat consumption includes chicken, beef, mutton, venison, duck and squab. In Chittagong, Mezban feasts are a popular tradition featuring the serving of hot beef curry. In Sylhet, the shopkora lemons are used to marinate dishes. In the tribal hill tracts, bamboo shoot cooking is prevalent. Bangladesh has a vast spread of desserts, including distinctive sweets like rasagala, rasmalai, cham-cham, mishti tiwai and kalojam. Pithas are traditional boiled desserts made with rice or fruits. Halwa is served during religious festivities. Naan, paratha, luchi and bakar khani are the main local breads. Milk tea is offered to guests as a gesture of welcome and is the most common hot beverage in the country. Kebabs are widely popular across Bangladesh, particularly seekh kebabs, chicken tikka and shasliks. Bangladesh shares its culinary heritage with the neighboring Indian state of West Bengal. The two regions have several differences, however. In Muslim-majority Bangladesh, meat consumption is greater, whereas in Hindu-majority West Bengal, vegetarianism is more prevalent. The Bangladeshi diaspora dominates the South Asian restaurant industry in many Western countries, particularly in the United Kingdom. Paila Baishak, the Bengali New Year, is the major festival of Bengali culture and sees widespread festivities. Of the major holidays celebrated in Bangladesh, only Paila Baishak comes without any pre-existing expectations, specific religious identity, culture of gift-giving, etc., and has become an occasion for celebrating the simpler, rural roots of the Bengal. Other cultural festivals include Nabano and Push Parban, both of which are Bengali harvest festivals. The Muslim festivals of Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, Milad an-Nabi, Muharram, Chandrat, Shab-e Barat, the Hindu festivals of Durga Puja, Janmashtami and Rath Yatra, the Buddhist festival of Buddha Purnima, which marks the birth of Gautama Buddha, and Christian festival of Christmas are national holidays in Bangladesh and see the most widespread celebrations in the country. The two Eids are celebrated with long streak of public holidays and give the city dwellers opportunity to celebrate the festivals with their families outside city. Alongside our national days like the remembrance of February 21, 1952 Language Movement Day, declared as International Mother Language Day by UNESCO in 1999, Independence Day and Victory Day. On Language Movement Day, people congregate at the Shahid Minar in Dhaka to remember the national heroes of the Bengali language movement. Similar gatherings are observed at the National Martyrs Memorial on Independence Day and Victory Day to remember the national heroes of the Bangladesh Liberation War. These occasions are celebrated with public ceremonies, parades, rallies by citizens, political speeches, fairs, concerts, and various other public and private events, celebrating the history and traditions of Bangladesh. TV and radio stations broadcast special programs and patriotic songs, and many schools and colleges organize fairs, festivals, and concerts that draw the participation of citizens from all levels of Bangladeshi society. In rural Bangladesh, several traditional indigenous sports such as kabaddi, boli khela, lati khela and nuka bach remain fairly popular. While kabaddi is the national sport, cricket is the most popular sport in the country, followed by football. The national cricket team participated in their first Cricket World Cup in 1999 and the following year was granted Test cricket status. Bangladesh reached the quarter-final of the 2015 Cricket World Cup, the semi-final of the 2017 ICC Champions Trophy, and they reached the final of the Asia Cup 3 times in 2012, 2016 and 2018. In February 2020, the Bangladesh youth national cricket team won the men's Under-19 Cricket World Cup, held in South Africa. This was Bangladesh's first World Cup victory. Women's sports saw significant progress in the 2010s decade in Bangladesh. In 2018, the Bangladesh women's national cricket team won the 2018 Women's 2020 Asia Cup, defeating India women's national cricket team in the final. Bangladesh women's national football team has also registered some success at regional level, especially the under-15 and under-18 teams. Football is another popular sport in Bangladesh alongside cricket and is governed by the Bangladesh Football Federation, BFF. Football tournaments are regularly organized in and outside Dhaka, and football fever grips the nation during every FIFA World Cup. On November 4, 2018, Bangladesh national under-15 football team won the 2018 SAF U15 championship, defeating Pakistan national under-15 football team in the final. Bangladesh archers Eddie Khatun and Roman Sana won several gold medals, winning all the 10 archery events, both individual and team events, in the 2019 South Asian Games. The National Sports Council regulates 42 sporting federations. Athletics, swimming, archery, boxing, volleyball, weightlifting and wrestling and different forms of martial arts remain popular. Chess is very popular in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has 5 grandmasters in chess. Among them, Niaz Morshed was the first grandmaster in South Asia. In 2010, mountain climber Musa Ibrahim became the first Bangladeshi climber to conquer Mount Everest. He climbed the top of the summit of Mount Everest. Wasfia Natsreen is the first Bangladeshi climber to climb the 7 summits, which are the highest mountains of each of the 7 continents of the world. Bangladesh hosts a number of international tournaments. Bangabandhu Cup is an international football tournament hosted in the country. Bangladesh hosted the South Asian Games several times. In 2011, Bangladesh co-hosted the ICC Cricket World Cup 2011 with India and Sri Lanka. The 2014 ICC World 2020 Championship was solely hosted by Bangladesh. Bangladesh hosted the Asia Cup cricket tournament in 2000, 2012, 2014 and 2016. The Bangladeshi press is diverse, outspoken and privately owned. Over 200 newspapers are published in the country. Bangladesh Betar is the state-run radio service. The British Broadcasting Corporation operates the popular BBC Bangla News and Current Affairs service. Bengali broadcasts from Voice of America are also very popular. Bangladesh Television, BTV, is the state-owned television network. There are more than 20 privately owned television networks, including several news channels. Freedom of the media remains a major concern, due to government attempts at censorship and the harassment of journalists. The cinema of Bangladesh dates back to 1898, when films began screening at the Crown Theatre in Dhaka. The first bioscope on the subcontinent was established in Dhaka that year. The Dhaka Nawab family patronized the production of several silent films in the 1920s and 30s. In 1931, the East Bengal Cinematograph Society released the first full-length feature film in Bangladesh, titled The Last Kiss. The first feature film in East Pakistan, Moko Mukosh, was released in 1956. During the 1960s, 2,530 films were produced annually in Dhaka. By the 2000s, Bangladesh produced 80,100 films a year. While the Bangladeshi film industry has achieved limited commercial success, the country has produced notable independent filmmakers. Zahir Raihan was a prominent documentary maker who was assassinated in 1971. The late Tariq Masood is regarded as one of Bangladesh's outstanding directors for his critically acclaimed films on social issues. Masood was honored by FIPRASI at the 2002 Cannes Film Festival for his film The Clay Bird. Tanvir Mokamil, Mostofa Sarwar Farooqi, Humayun Ahmed, Alamgir Kabir, and Shashi Nazrul Islam are some of the prominent directors of Bangladeshi cinema. Bangladesh has a very active film society culture. It started in 1963 in Dhaka. Now around 40 film societies are active all over Bangladesh. Federation of Film Societies of Bangladesh is the parent organization of the Film Society Movement of Bangladesh. Active film societies include the Rainbow Film Society, Children's Film Society, Movie Yana Film Society, and Dhaka University Film Society. The Varindra Research Museum is the oldest museum in Bangladesh. It houses important collections from both the pre-Islamic and Islamic periods, including the sculptures of the Polycena School of Art and the Indus Valley Civilization, as well as Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian manuscripts and inscriptions. The Ahsan Manzil, the former residence of the Nawab of Dhaka, is a national museum housing collections from the British Raj. It was the site of the founding conference of the All India Muslim League and hosted many British viceroys in Dhaka. The Tajhat Palace Museum preserves artifacts of the rich cultural heritage of North Bengal, including Hindu-Buddhist sculptures and Islamic manuscripts. The Mymensingh Museum houses the personal antique collections of Bengali aristocrats in central Bengal. The Ethnological Museum of Chittagong showcases the lifestyle of various tribes in Bangladesh. The Bangladesh National Museum is located in Ramna, Dhaka and has a rich collection of antiquities. The Liberation War Museum documents the Bangladeshi struggle for independence and the 1971 genocide. In ancient times, manuscripts were written on palm leaves, tree barks, parchment vellum and terracotta plates and preserved at monasteries known as viharas. The Hussain Shahi dynasty established royal libraries during the Bengal Sultanate. Libraries were established in each district of Bengal by the Zamindar gentry during the Bengal Renaissance in the 19th century. The trend of establishing libraries continued until the beginning of World War II. In 1854, 4 major public libraries were opened, including the Bagra Woodburn Library, the Rangpur Public Library, the Jaisalmer Institute Public Library and the Barisal Public Library. The Northbrook Hall Public Library was established in Dhaka in 1882 in honor of Lord Northbrook, the Governor-General. Other libraries established in the British period included the Victoria Public Library, Nagpur, 1901, the Sirajganj Public Library, 1882, the Rajshahi Public Library, 1884, the Komila Burchandra Library, 1885, the Shamakdam Institute Public Library, Rajshahi, 1891, the Noakhali Town Hall Public Library, 1896, the Prize Memorial Library, Sylhet, 1897, the Chittagong Municipality Public Library, 1904, and the Varindra Research Library, 1910. The Great Bengal Library Association was formed in 1925. The Central Public Library of Dhaka was established in 1959. The National Library of Bangladesh was established in 1972. The World Literature Center, founded by Ramon Magsaysay Award winner Abdullah Abu Saeed, is noted for operating numerous mobile libraries across Bangladesh and was awarded the UNESCO John Amos Comenius Medal. External links. Government General Information.